Hi everybody. So this video is finally going to be published. How about that? And it is a political video, so like I always tell you, if you like me for other things, stop it now, get off, and check out my other videos. So let's get this started, shall we? John McCain has become the butt of a joke from Sadler in the White House. Said he's dying anyway. That's not much of a joke. You know, when somebody has brain cancer, I'm not going to condone that activity. I'm not going to condone that remark. However, I do think he deserves an apology. What kind of apology? Does it have to be made public? Well, that's what the media, that's what the family, and that's what the Democrats think. Now, you know, nobody should have to suffer from cancer. That is a horrible, horrible diagnosis, especially when there's nothing they can do with it, and once there's been treatment given and the treatment's not working and the doctor says there is nothing else we can do for you. That's heartbreaking, and I know that's hard on the family. I've been through that with my own mom, so I understand where his family's coming from. I understand how hurtful that had to been. You know, it's really funny, not in a good way, how Democrats always seem to forget things.
What is notable about what one of the staffers said about McCain, because, you know, who is she? What was the context? I really don't care about any of that. It was an obvious example of a moment where the president could have stepped up and said, not on my watch. We don't talk like this about people. This is too much. This is mean. The man's in the fight of his life. Let's have some decency. That's not in the White House statement. It's not from the president directly. That has to mean he's okay with this.
Or at minimum, it means that he, or at some level, it's that he never apologizes and he doesn't want other people doing it either. There is a tremendous mean-spirited about the comment about John McCain that was made. You simply do not say things like that. It is a culture that gets created at the top. This is a president who lampoons and is nasty about people who he perceives as rivals, even if they're not, or critics, even if they're not. He has no problem personalizing everything, and that is what that remark was. Kelly Sadler, a lot of people like her in the White House. A lot of people felt very bad that this had gone down this way. She apparently tried to reach out to Meghan McCain, or did, and that did not go very well. I'm not really sure what they were expecting, because if you're not going to apologize publicly, then you just might as well not do it.
Do we remember the Libyan Civil War? Anybody? Well, we had 4 men in Benghazi who lost their lives. And what was it that Hillary Clinton said? What at this point does it even matter?
Fact is, we had 4 dead Americans. Was it because of a protest, or was it because of guys out for a walk one night who decided they'd go kill some Americans? What difference at this point does it make?
We know that hurt the families. Families never got a phone call from Hillary Clinton or Barack Obama. And to this very day, they still have not received a phone call from either Hillary Clinton or Barack Obama. They have never received any apologies, nothing.
Yeah, I mean, and also this just suggests that she thought that this was going to go over well. This, you know, you don't make a joke.
Or there wouldn't be repercussions, right? I mean, I don't know that it was sort of like thinking that you were going to get a great audience. It's just that in a culture where there is constant backbiting, an undercurrent of just mean-spiritedness, it does not occur to you that this could be a problem. And the initial report by The Hill, and it was a very good story by them, but the initial report said that nobody reacted. My understanding from a White House official is that a couple of people did laugh. Some gasped because they were surprised, but certainly nobody stood up and said, you know what, this is a problem.
Yeah, and so then...
And also the media. You know, I can never seem to say this enough. While this is a horrible thing to say to somebody who has cancer, who's terminally ill and is going to die, and I don't condone it, and I don't condone what was said about Trump's administration.
At a Trump rally on Monday, one small supporter stole the show.
Now, he's supposed to look like Donald Trump, but he's actually much too good looking. You are really handsome. Where's your daddy? And your mommy, right? Do you want to go back? Do you want to go back to them, or do you want to stay with Donald Trump?
Trump.
Joining us right now is Tiny Trump, Hunter Turpak, and his mom, Jessica. Hey, Hunter, you're on TV.
Okay. You want to wave? Wave. See the red light? There you are. Oh.
Okay.
Blow kisses. Blow kisses.
Okay, so let's take you back Monday night. You're in the crowd.
Hunter.
Hunter. You're in the crowd. It's your second Trump rally.
Mm-hmm.
And Donald Trump sees Hunter.
Yes.
What does he say?
He says, get that kid up here.
Okay. Were you okay with that?
Yes, I was. I was okay with that. You know, we were towards the back of the crowd.
Yeah.
And the crowd around us wanted Donald to see the baby. So they were great. They were a great group of people who let us on through.
And then they started chanting.
And then they started yelling, chanting, pointing to the baby.
Bring him up.
Yep.
Bring him up.
And my husband held them up, and Donald, you know, spotted his Mini Trump.
Jessica, were you nervous? Because when Donald Trump asks him, do you want to go with Mama or Daddy, or do you want to stay here with Donald Trump? I mean, you didn't know what he was going to say.
I didn't know what he was going to say.
And he said Trump.
He said Trump. I think the whole time he was like mimicking him. He was talking into the mic. He was kind of saying what he was saying. So I think he was playing, you know, a copycat.
Okay, so Donald Trump was at a rally. And let's just make this clear. If he comes back to Louisville, I'm going. My husband's not here. I'm calling Uber, I'm calling Lyft, and I'm going to be there. So, anyway, he's at this rally. And, you know, he works up the crowd. He makes them all just, you know. Anyway, so he's at this rally, and he's talking about, you know, if he could run a third term, he knows he would get it. He'd have the support and everything. If they could get him, if they would let him, you know, sit another term, a third term. So, you know, this commentator was CNN, well, first of all, that's illegal, and you know, that would never happen, and blah, 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 blah. And I'm just like, I mean, seriously, you have to go there? Do you think that he's stupid, that he really thinks that he's going to run a third term, and he's going to win, and he's going to be able to sit as president a third term? You know, that's President Trump being President Trump, you know, joking around and having fun. Just sit back and enjoy this clip.
But he introduced the possibility that perhaps 2 terms would not be enough for him. And the crowd ate it up. Listen to this.
So I said, unless they give me an extension for the presidency, which I don't think the fake news media would be too happy about. Wait. Actually, they would be happy, because when I'm not here, their ratings are going to sink.
How many terms will he be serving? Do you know?
I don't think anybody credibly believes that Donald Trump is looking to spend more time than he needs to in this office, even though I think he is having fun right now. I think the problem with a remark like that is this is not, they give me an extension on term limits. There are laws about this. This is not sort of up to people's whim. It's interesting. His current lawyer, Rudy Giuliani, did a similar thing in New York right after September 11th, where he tried to get an extension on his own term, and it did not meet very well. Except Giuliani was serious about it. I don't think Trump was serious about that. I think that's a device to get his crowd worked up against the media, which is Trump's favorite, clearest one.
So President Trump is trying really hard to get pharmaceutical companies to lower the prices on medication. I have not seen one president trying to lower prices on medication because, well, let's just face it, Obamacare was the biggest ripoff, lie, you name it. I have ranted on Obamacare time and time and time again because, let's face it, it was the biggest flop, lie, whatever. Anyway, I'm done being a drama queen about it. So, okay, so yeah, he's trying to talk with and getting, pharmaceutical companies to lower prices on medications because, let's face it, yes, medication is high. But also, we have all these class action lawsuits on pharmaceutical companies because, well, American citizens have this problem with, well, this is what's wrong with me and this is a side effect, so I'm going to sue the pharmaceutical company. Well, if you would quit suing the pharmaceutical company and become responsible for your own health, that might help lower the medications. And, people don't realize it takes money to research and make these medications. And after a while of being out, they come out with a generic. And sometimes that generic is high. But, I agree that medications do need to be cheaper. My in-laws have insurance and they have maxed out their medication, how much their insurance pay on their medication. And my daughter was really upset about it, and she called me and said, Mom, you know anything, because Papa really needs this, and I'm upset, and I was like, yes, because I've had to do it myself. There's patient assistance. You can, if you know what brand your drug is, if it's Abbott, Shipper, I'm trying to think of brands, Glaxo, you can go to their site. You can go online and put the name of the drug, you put the generic name. There's all kinds of different brands with the generic name, so you can just pick one. And go to that company, pull it up, patient assistance. Pull out the printed letter for you to fill out, take it to your doctor, and if you qualify, you can get free medication, or they might send you a card to get it at a discounted rate or a copay. So, you know, pharmaceutical companies do help people who cannot afford their medications or give it to you at a cheaper cost. And not very many American citizens, I don't think, know this. I am on a lot of medications that are extremely expensive. And, you know, they were talking about, on an average, American citizens pay out over $1,000 in medication. I can tell you, just on my oral medication, I am well above that. And that's even with my husband's insurance, which is extremely, extremely good. And I am very, very lucky to have the insurance that I have. And that's just on my oral medication. That does not include my IV infusion medication. So, you know, that is a whole nother. Just for a week on my IV medication, I'm already over $1,000. So, yes, it is very expensive, and he is the only president that has ever even looked into lowering the cost of pharmaceutical medication. And he's wanting other countries to do the same thing. He's wanting for there to be competition, because Americans are buying outside of the country to get their medication because it is cheaper. And if you are lucky and you don't have your medication, if you're lucky and you don't have your medication confiscated when it comes through customs. So, anyway, he is the first one that has ever tried doing anything because, well, quite frankly, Obamacare was a flop.
Well, drug companies are getting away with murder. Remember, the president has said that. This is his big campaign promise to cut your drug prices. He's going to unveil this blueprint at 2. Will it work? The big question, does it lower the sticker price of drugs or just shift around who pays? Here's the plan. It's designed to improve drug price negotiations, to create incentives for lower prices by making it easier for cheaper generic drugs to hit the market and targeting the shadowy world of drug rebates. Trump wants insurers to share their big discounts for buying pricey brand name drugs with consumers. It's an idea the Obama administration also supported. But the president is dropping one big campaign promise, having Medicare directly negotiate with drug makers. Instead, they plan to remove government rules preventing Medicare from getting better deals. Now, experts say today's proposals, they could have a modest impact. Trump also expected to slam foreign governments, other countries, for paying less for prescription drugs. Those countries use their national health care systems to set lower drug prices, but Trump wants them to pay more for their American innovation. Americans, by the way, spend more on drugs than anyone else in the world, Allison, over $1,100 per person each year.
Okay, so now we have somebody in Barack Obama's administration talking about Obama's legacy.
Ask you what it's like for you to watch so many of these Obama-era policies being overthrown, or whatever the word is, undone. Reversed, undone. So the Iran nuclear deal is just the latest, but we have a whole slew of them. They go DACA, obviously, Paris Climate Accord getting out, the Iran nuclear deal getting out, TPP, Obama's individual mandate, doing away with it, transgenders serving in the military, and all of the environmental regulations that have been rolled back. So what is it like for you as you watch these things?
You're going through.
Well, Obama didn't have a legacy. He didn't have a leg to stand on. What he had was a list of executive orders. Yes, a list of executive orders.
So listen, well, thanks. That's all the time we have. I'm happy to be here. Look, I try not to view these things through the prism of my past experience with the president. I try and view them through the prism of what the meaning of these things are. I think the Iran nuclear agreement kept a malign force that was on the verge of getting a nuclear weapon from getting one, and gave us a little breathing time. So if they did approach breakout, that there were tactics we could employ. That's important for our national security. You know, one of the things about as you're reading that list, I'm wondering how many of those things could the President of the United States sit here and talk to you for more than 3 minutes about in detail. I suspect he doesn't know. The barometer that he uses is not, is this in the national interest? It's, did Obama support it? Did he sponsor it? And I think it does play well with his base. Anytime he says he's undone something Obama did, it plays well with his base. And I think right now he's about the business of trying to arouse his base because he's concerned about what's going to happen in November. Right. But he's not about the policy, and that's what bothers me. It's not on the merits of the policy.
He's delivering on campaign promises.
There's no doubt about it.
He's checking boxes the same way we put him up on the graphic. And there is something politically saleable about that. And he's obvious in his intentionality. I mean, look at the pay raises for the military. They give him a pay raise, I think it was 2.4%. It's the biggest one they've seen, I think, in 8 years. That wasn't good enough for Trump. What he wanted to say, and Obama sucks. So he says, this is the first pay raise you've had in 10 years. Not true. They've had a pay raise every year. So he steps on the fact that he gave them a big one just to say that, and also the other guy stinks.
Yeah, which is really unusual. I mean, we've never...
You know, President Trump is not getting rid of things out of spite, like they're trying to make it sound, because Obama did it. He's getting rid of it because, well, quite frankly, we don't need them. It's federal spending on stuff that's just not needed. Doesn't need to be funded. That is just, you know, questionable money. Where is it going? I mean, honestly.
I've never seen anything like this before, where one president spends all his time trying to malign a former president. I think part of it is what we said, which is it plays very well with the base. We know how Obama was dealt with by his base, how they felt about him. I also think there's something about Donald Trump. I think he resents the fact that Obama left as a respected president with high approval ratings, that the elites liked Obama. And so he really wants to tear down the Obama legacy, and that is something that consumes him. Again,
you said that you would support a prisoner exchange for Sergeant Bergdahl. You said you were opposed to releasing what you call the 5 really hardcore Taliban leaders as a confidence-boosting measure, but you did signal that you were open to the idea of exchanging them for Bergdahl, though you cautioned that a lot would depend on the details. What has changed between then and now?
Well, first of all, I said it twice, depending on a lot of the details. In other words, do not trade a one person for 5 hardcore, the hardest of the hardcore, murdering war criminals who will clearly re-enter the fight, and send them to Qatar, of all places, where they will be free to roam, including to the Taliban headquarters there in Qatar, and then after a year will be allowed to go back into the fight in Afghanistan. This is the hardcore that were judged time after time as unworthy of being, that were needed to be kept in detention because they posed a risk and a threat to the United States of America. These are the hardcore. They are Mullah Omar's cabinet. They will go back to the fight, and they will try to kill Americans. That is a lousy deal. And let me say again, I said to you twice, it depends on the details. These details are terrible. And by the way, on this, could I just say on this line about if a sailor falls overboard, the captain picks him up no matter what. I'm an old Navy person, but also the captain doesn't steer his ship into waters where the ship could be sunk, which is exactly what is happening in this case. So, you know, I'm sometimes entertained by Mr. Carney quoting me, but I wish he would quote me in full context.
President Obama didn't try to keep his decision to exchange Sergeant Bo Bergdahl for 5 Taliban detainees held in Guantanamo Bay under the radar, opting instead for the optics of a news conference to make the announcement. But it wasn't long before critics began hammering the president. What was the White House's political calculus in terms of negotiating the release now? In making the deal to bring Sergeant Bergdahl home, it had to weigh 2 ideals Americans hold sacred. On one side of the scale, the mantra, "leave no soldier behind." On the other, the notion that America doesn't negotiate with terrorists. The White House celebrated its accomplishment of the former without describing, at least initially, the details of the latter. What were the factors that tipped the balance to go get Bergdahl? The administration says it saw video suggesting Sergeant Bergdahl's health was in jeopardy, justifying, it says, their need to act quickly. Some in the administration hoped the swap could test whether the Taliban could be a reliable negotiating partner as part of broader peace talks with the Afghan government. And the fanfare of the president's announcement suggests the administration thought the public would embrace Sergeant Bergdahl's return, a feel-good moment. What went wrong politically? Right away you had members of Congress, including some Democrats, criticizing the White House for not consulting with them.
We're going to find out what the administration did, why they did it, and under what authority.
White House officials have called some of them to say the lack of notification had been an oversight. But the real blowback came when some members of Sergeant Bergdahl's unit began publicly saying he was a deserter. Secretary of the Army John McHugh says the military is glad Sergeant Bergdahl is free, but investigators will take a closer look at the case. Didn't the White House know about the questions surrounding Sergeant Bergdahl's capture? It would have been hard not to. A 2012 Rolling Stone article had an array of evidence suggesting Sergeant Bergdahl abandoned his unit. Also, the Pentagon's own report, while not concluding he deserted, certainly hinted as much. The president's response to the deserter question: America does what it can to get a soldier back,
regardless of the circumstances.
What about the Guantanamo prisoners he set free? Leaked documents show that these men were high-level Taliban officials that the U.S. had regarded as dangerous to America and its allies. Scenes of former Taliban detainees arriving in Doha, Qatar to hugs and celebration, giving more ammo to White House critics. Did the White House see the blowback coming? We don't know how much consideration the president's advisors gave to the potential political fallout.
This is not a political football.
But politically, why should they care anyway? Control of the U.S. Senate hangs in the balance in the midterm elections, and the Bergdahl prison swap threatens to become a liability to Democrats. And it now puts potential 2016 presidential candidate Hillary Clinton in a tough spot. As she promotes her book, Hard Choices, she's being asked what hard choice she would have made. The former Secretary of State says, "I don't believe in second-guessing people who have to make these hard choices." Whether to back the president on Bergdahl, that's a hard choice many of his closest allies now face. That's the short answer.
The thing that we should be concerned about is what are the implications for the country? And is he thinking through? I mean, the TPP was on there, the Trans-Pacific Partnership. There has not been a greater gift to China than America's withdrawal from the Trans-Pacific Partnership. That was going to be a bulwark against China's hegemony in that region, and now we are not part of it. We've weakened it. So, you know, these are the things that people should be concerned about. I'm not worried about Obama's legacy. I think that will stand. I'm worried about the future and what the implications of all of these decisions will be.
Here's what President Obama said about what's going on with the Iran deal this week. He said, in a democracy, there will always be changes in policies and priorities from one administration to the next, but the consistent flouting of agreements that our country is a party to risks eroding America's credibility and puts us at odds with the world's major powers.
Yeah.
Have you spoken to him about this?
Well, we've had some conversations about it, but you know, I think the point he makes is really important as well. Donald Trump has made a business practice for his entire career of breaking agreements and breaking contracts. That was his approach to relationships. That's one thing when you're running a family business. It's another thing when you're president of the United States. And people are going to be more reluctant to enter into agreements with you if they believe that those agreements are not firm, that the president may withdraw on a whim. It's not a good policy for the country.
And it's, look, we just saw what you're worried about teed up. Heather Nauert comes on from the State Department, discusses Iran in very dark terms about their capabilities, their predilections. But we just got out of the deal that was the only real check we had on Iran. So what will they put in its place? We'll see if delivering on a promise is going to get us in a better place.
That's the whole question, Chris. Are these decisions taking us forward or are they taking us back? My concern is they're taking us back.
David Axelrod, nice to see you.
It's not that Trump It's not that he's getting rid of it because Obama did it. That's not why he's doing it. He's cutting federal spending. Global climate control. That is the biggest fraud on the American people you will ever see. We don't have a problem with climate control. And even if we did, what the hell is that money going for? Are you putting that money up in the sky? I mean, really? The ice caps are melting because there are volcanoes in the oceans. What do you think makes islands? Volcanoes. They erupt and erupt and erupt. And next thing you know, we have volcanoes. And that's why when ships come through and they start noticing there's these land masses, and next, before you know it, there's an island. Because things change. You know? Because there's volcanoes. Hawaii is nothing but a big volcano. And that's why it keeps erupting. You know, who knows? Hawaii might have to be completely evacuated if this whole volcano doesn't stop. So climate control is the biggest fraud on American people. You can't fix climate control. You know, they talked about the Iran deal, and well, you know, how many times were they talking about, you know, we were breathing radiation off over there. Did it stop them? Who knows? I don't think so. But, you know, Obama, I just don't like him. Everybody knows that. That's not a secret. But Trump is not undoing any of his legacies because, quite frankly, Obama had no legacies. He had a bunch of lies, a lot of treason, a lot of tyranny, a lot of negotiation with terrorists that the United States does not do. You know, you can tell the liberal media because they are so gung-ho on what Obama did and so down on President Trump. And you can see that right here. President Trump has a lot on his plate coming up. He has set up a meeting with Kim Jong-un. And yes, I don't know why people think this is such... Well, I don't know why they are acting so weird about this. You know, Trump has a different way of approaching things. He's not a politician. And people act so dumbfounded on how he does things. And, you know, have they ever thought that because he's not a politician, that's how he's getting some of these things done? Because he's thinking like a businessman? No president has ever done the things he's done. It's really, really annoying, you know? They just keep questioning him.
This has been a big week of international developments. We got 3 Americans home under President Trump's stewardship and urging. He's taken the country out of the Iran nuclear deal. He's set up the date and place for the North Korean summit. We have the opening of the U.S. Embassy in Jerusalem coming next week. And all of that now in the context of this very ugly incident that the White House has all but ignored. So let's get a take on it all from someone in a position of power. Heather Nauert acting Undersecretary of State for Public Diplomacy and Public Affairs. She traveled to Pyongyang with Secretary of State Pompeo this week to secure the release of 3 American detainees, a mission that was, of course, successful. Heather, thank you for joining us.
Good morning, Chris. Great to see you.
All right, let's dispense with something that should be pretty simple. Do you believe the White House should come out and say what was said about John McCain is wrong, shouldn't be said, it's mean, and should the president echo that message and right away?
Chris, I'm not exactly sure what you're referring to. We here at the State Department have been focused on the issues that you mentioned earlier. We've been focused on bringing home those 3 Americans from North Korea, a tremendous success for those 3 men, their families, this administration, and also Secretary Pompeo and the State Department. We've been focused on the totality of Iran's bad behaviors around the world, which for far too long have been ignored by many other countries, and this administration has said no longer. We will focus, and we will make sure that we are focused on the bad acts that they have been involved with, which includes firing rockets and missiles onto our strategic partners, Saudi Arabia, endangering its citizens and civilians, and doing the same type of thing in Israel as well. We've been focused on those very serious issues and not the politics here at home.
It's not politics. Everything you just said is really important, Heather, and we're going to touch on all of it. I promise you that.
Chris, I don't know why you want to start this being argumentative.
I'm not being argumentative.
It's
a pretty easy question. I'm letting you say what you want in response. That's your choice. But this isn't politics. This is about decency.
Okay, Chris, had you told me you wanted to talk about Senator McCain, who, by the way, I have a tremendous amount of respect for, and I'm in touch with his family. My father died of the same type of cancer that he did. He is an American hero. Had you told me that you wanted to speak about Senator McCain, I might have something to say about that, but I can tell you here from the State Department that we are focused on all the activities that we have been very committed to over the past few months and several weeks.
All right, but obviously when something like that is said and we have somebody who's a state official with great authority and insight into how matters like this should be handled.
Chris, again,
that's why I'm asking you.
I'm not
you can't expect not to be asked about this, Heather. We both know that. You did this job.
I'm not familiar with what you were referring to. If you want to send me a
You're not familiar with what was said about he's dying anyway by one of the White House staff in a meeting? It's been all over the media for the last 24 hours?
I've seen that. I don't know this individual. I don't know this individual. I've seen that. Now, thank you for telling me exactly what you were referring to. I don't know this individual who allegedly said that. I'm not familiar with it, and I'll leave it at that.
Okay. Let me ask you what happened about with the detainees. So they're brought home. That's unqualified good news, and the administration deserves the bravo. Amazing that you went over there with the secretary and got it done. What does that mean in terms of how the context of the U.S.-North Korea relationship is perceived? Because the president said Kim Jong-un was excellent here. Now, that seems to go beyond flattery, right? Because he took them wrongfully in the first place. What's the strategy there and how to deal with Kim Jong-un and what to say about it?
Well, look, I think it's a positive step in the right direction that the 3 American prisoners were released. We had said to them all along that that is something that we would want. When the president spoke about, in a positive sense, about Kim Jong-un and his willingness to do that, sure, that is a positive development. We want to make progress with the North Korean regime, and that's something that we've talked to them very clearly about. We go into this clear-eyed and realistic. Obviously, they have their nuclear program, which is a tremendous concern to the United States and many other countries around the world, as we have achieved in our maximum pressure campaign of getting people to kick out North Korean diplomats, all around the world. That has put pressure on North Korea. Now North Korea is coming to the table to have these conversations. This administration has made more progress in the past 8 weeks on North Korea than other administrations have in the past 8 years. We think we are on the right footing, we are on the right track, but still we go into this clear-eyed and realistic.
Well, I think we've been here before with North Korea. We haven't gotten here this way. The president says he believes his tough talk is what got us to this point. And let's say that's true. Let's say that's exactly why we're here. Let's say it's the only reason. That's why I ask you about the principle of what you ignore, you empower. If you talk about...
Excuse me, what I ignored? I don't know what you mean,
I'm not talking about you. Well, you ignored the question that really matters about what's going on in the White House and treating McCain in such an undignified way. But Chris, the president is ignoring Kim Jong-un's record.
For you very clearly.
I don't think so, but we've moved on. I'm just saying, I'm giving you proper context for this question.
Okay.
You know, about how he is able to get, you know, a meeting with Kim Jong-un and, you know, why he keeps talking about the excellent care about our 3 hostages that we got back. You know, he's being nice because of the upcoming meeting. You know, yes, the men didn't see light. They didn't get the good medical care, you know, but they didn't come back, you know, skin and bones either. You know, their treatment was labor. You know, it's not like they got whipped and all that, but, you know, no, they didn't get excellent care. But Trump is appeasing right now. And if we can change North Korea and we can get them denuclearized, why are people questioning his thought process? He's not a politician. So, you know, this back and forth arguing just goes to show that CNN is a liberal network.
The 3 American hostages finally back on U.S. soil after being held captive in North Korea for more than a year. Greg Palkut, live in London with who these men are and how they ended up imprisoned in the rogue nation. Greg, good morning.
Hi, Todd. Good morning. Yes, another rare instance of good news coming from North Korea. Maybe there will be more to come. The return, as we have been watching in the last couple hours, of these 3 Korean Americans, American citizens, held in captivity by the regime for as long as 2.5 years. Much of that we have now learned under, quote, difficult conditions. They are Kim Sang-duk, or Tony Kim. He was seized last April in North Korea. Kim Hak-song, detained a few weeks later. They both worked at a Christian-backed university in Pyongyang. And Kim Dong-chul, a businessman, he was arrested in October of 2015. All said to be and looking this morning in good health, walking around, giving the V sign, etc. All 3 were accused of subversive acts against the regime, even spying. Kim Dong-chul was actually convicted and sentenced to 10 years of hard labor. He noted that hard labor in his brief comments a short while ago. Central to the release of these 3, of course, the policies, the actions of the Trump administration. That includes Secretary of State Mike Pompeo. It was his meeting yesterday with North Korean leader Kim Jong-un in Pyongyang that sealed the deal. From these 3 ex-hostages, we have received this statement of gratification. They say, and I quote, "We would like to express our deep appreciation to the United States government, President Trump, Secretary Pompeo, and the people of the United States for bringing us home." As Griff noted, Todd, not there, of course, but mentioned and remembered Otto Warmbier, the 21-year-old university student who was held in captivity by North Korea, who died following that captivity. He will be remembered. He is remembered by President Trump and all, and a lot of good times now for these 3 Korean Americans, American citizens, back in the United States. Back to you.
Greg Palkut, live for us this morning. Greg, thank you so very much.
Because they can't even get past, you know, the idea and questioning the ratings. I mean, oh yes, he went and met the 3 hostages, and he's talking about ratings. He's a reality star. You know, everybody that knows Donald Trump knows that he likes to pop off with jokes, and that was all that it was. It was just a joke.
In the middle of the night, while CNN producers were dreaming of their next stormy headline, President Trump welcomed home 3 Americans imprisoned in North Korea, and he did it to great ratings.
I think you probably broke the all-time in history television rating for 3 o'clock in the morning, that I would say. This is a special night for these 3 really great people, and congratulations on being in this country. Thank you. I want to thank Kim Jong-un, who really was excellent to these three incredible people.
I never thought I'd hear that, but then again, I never thought we'd have a former reality game show host running the most powerful country in the world ever. But that reality and the reality of this morning's release are actually connected. First, the release. What does it mean? An end to the North Korean nuclear threat with happier days ahead for all of us? Obviously, it's too soon to tell. But you'd have to be in your own prison of emotional bias not to see this as a promising step in the direction of a safer world. Right, Chuck?
It is so troubling to hear President Trump say that Kim Jong-un treated the Americans excellently. Their release should not be exalted, it should be expected.
What a wet blanket. But enough about his hair. Anyway, this development puts things in perspective. While news anchors take turns acting shocked over a porn star tryst, 3 Americans are free. And that's the point. Once you get past Trump's unseemly past, you see that it's his entire past that reveals his talents. What America elected is a person with a unique toolkit for a unique time, someone tough-minded enough to engage rogue regimes in terms that they understand. Carrot and a real stick, not fantasies. Who knew that what we needed most was a reality TV star who actually deals in reality? So I wonder, would those freed people have preferred a squeaky clean president fretting alone in the Oval Office as they sat in a foreign jail? Or a billionaire tycoon who's not the best husband, but could talk a bear off a fish truck? You know the answer.
You just knew that the media would have a tough time acknowledging another Trump triumph. Well, these killjoys actually found a way to criticize the president as he greeted 3 American hostages released from North Korea.
He has a complete incapacity for human empathy. You have 3 prisoners of the North Korean slave state, and it's about Donald Trump. It's about the ratings.
How soon will it be before we see these images turned around and, put out on social media by the president as some kind of, campaign message?
Donald Trump's a former reality show producer. This was a staged production meant for television, meant for the cameras.
Staged? Well, maybe Hallie Jackson is having amnesia. I mean, just 4 years ago, President Obama staged an elaborate Rose Garden photo op announcing the release of Army Private Bo Bergdahl, flanked by his parents. I mean, that was an odd deal to the parents. Never mind that Obama traded 5 terrorists in Gitmo for Bergdahl, who pled guilty in November to desertion and endangering his fellow troops. So let's discuss the double standard with Fox News host of Media Buzz, Howie Kurtz, along with Fox News contributor Leslie Marshall. Howie, let's go to you. I mean, right from the beginning, Obama, when he was nominated, he went to that Invesco Field speech in Denver. They brought in the big columns, the Roman columns. David Geffen was involved in producing the whole thing. I believe it was Geffen. I mean, he was really good at stage production. Here we have Trump at 3 in the morning going to greet the hostages, and everybody's having a meltdown over it.
Yeah, this is such a sad spin. I mean, the president went out there to give a hero's welcome to these 3 hostages, to make it about them. He didn't put the spotlight on himself. And, some in the media just have to kind of mock or minimize or denigrate it. So what should be a celebratory moment for the country, let's face it, becomes just another anti-Trump story. And oh, he didn't show enough empathy. He didn't bite his lower lip and feel their pain.
Feign a tear.
Yeah, same thing when he went to visit the hurricane victims. This is why people hate the press. It really is.
Leslie, here's a Yahoo headline after this release of the hostages. Trump cheapens North Korean hostage return with ratings obsession. The president made an offhand comment about how we're going to get ratings at 3 in the morning. That's just from Trump. He's just making he's making an offhand comment. He's not making about himself getting ratings. This compared to Bill Clinton in 2009. Here's some headlines from there. In Release of Journalists, both Clintons had key roles August 4th, 2009. I think we have the full screens. Bill Clinton and journalists in emotional return to U.S. August 5th, 2009. When he got prisoners released from North Korea. The double standard, I mean, whether you're Republican or Democrat, at least kind of have a modicum of fairness. Your comment.
Well,
Well, I have to say, and I am a Democrat who loves to attack the president every chance I get, as you guys know. But this one, it should be about these 3 men released. It should not be about politics. And I have to say, I really didn't think, and I know lefties get mad at me for this, I'm just saying the truth here. I didn't think it was about the president. What bothered me was when he gave credit to Kim Jong-un. And that bothered me because these men were imprisoned. They were in the dark. They were not allowed to go outside. They were not given proper food or water or medical attention. That was the thing that bothered me the most. And the comment about the ratings, although it is Trump, we do hope, Laura, we just hope day after day that he will become a bit more presidential and forget the size of crowds or the ratings.
Leslie, there's a little inconsistency here. When President Trump...
How many presidents have gotten up at 3 o'clock in the morning to go meet anybody? You know, President Trump has a heart. And, you know, some of the things that he's done in his past and the way he acts, he is a human being. And again, he's not a politician. He is a human being. He is a businessman. And you know what? That is why the American people voted for him. And, you know, it is just really sickening to see how people talk about him. And, you know, I defend him pretty much on a daily basis over people because they are so stupid. And, you know, the only way that you can fight them is actually just being smarter than them. And I know that sounds stupid, but it's true. Because they have no intelligence. The only way that they can argue with you is by insulting you. That's the only way they know how to argue, is through insults. So. Well, people, there you have it. People talk to me about getting real news. To stay away from the Libral Report and Fox Channel and what was the other one? I don't remember. And I'm just like, well, you know, I don't know if you forgot about this or not, but you know the Democrat Party owns pretty much all the media, and what the Democrat Party doesn't own, George Soros owns. So, you know, I have to look elsewhere for my information. And, so, you know, it is kind of annoying when people say those things to you. And so, you know, it just goes to prove, though, because I'm showing other channels and other clips, about, you know, these things, and it is very, very biased, and quite frankly, it's annoying. And you know, Obama lovers and supporters are always going to be supporters, and it doesn't matter how bad the situation is and how good the situation is with Trump. They are never going to accept him, or they're never going to openly admit that, you know, President Trump has turned things around and life is easier and life is better. And you know what? I had a better tax return with him. And, you know, I'm happy. The military's stronger. They're making more money. The VA, you know, the veterans are getting better treatment. You know, our economy's getting better. You know, and, you know, it's just downright annoying. And it's like it doesn't matter what we do, what we say, what we prove. They're never going to agree. So, like, subscribe, comment, ring that bell, and I hope you enjoyed this, and see you tomorrow.